The Senate will come to order. We are on the third agenda for the day. Order business 4, reports of committees.
Mr. President, your Committee on Finance, to which were referred Senate Bills numbers 133 and 280, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which were re-referred Senate Bills numbers 62, 147, 300, 317, 378, 400, and 407, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Also, your Committee on Finance, to which were re-referred Senate Bills numbers 165 and 393, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Maryland Dondero Loop, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, to which was referred Assembly Bill number 415, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Rochelle Wynn, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, to which are referred Assembly Bills numbers 92 and 588, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator James Orenshaw, Chair. End of reports.
Order of business 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, May 27, 2025. To the Honorable Senate, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Assembly on this day passed Assembly Bills numbers 552, 563, 565, 566, 567, 569, 572, 574, 576, 577, 578, 579, 582, and 590. Also, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Assembly on this day passed as amended Assembly Bills numbers 376, 503, 544, 554, 558, 560, 562, 564, 570, 571, and 573. Signed, Jason Hadaway, Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Order of business 14, unfinished business.
Senate Bill 121, introduced by Senator Neal, revises provisions governing common interest communities. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendment number 573. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Amendment 573 to Senate Bill 121.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment reduces the period during which a common interest community cannot require new owners to install backyard landscaping.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 121 is ordered enrolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 177, introduced by Senator Orenshaw, revises provisions relating to education. The Assembly has amended this bill with Assembly Amendment number 618. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we concur, that the Senate concurs in Amendment 618 to Senate Bill 177.
Heard the motion to concur. Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 168 to Senate Bill 177 makes various changes relating to pupils who are homeless or in foster care.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 177 is ordered enrolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 201, introduced by Senators Pizzina, et cetera, and Assembly Members Roth, et cetera, prohibits certain restrictions on the display of religious or cultural items under certain circumstances. The Assembly has amended this bill with Amendment number 661. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Amendment 661 to Senate Bill 201.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment expands protections to include cultural items, specifies certain restrictions on displays, and requires notice before removal and respectful handling and storage of cultural items.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 201 is ordered enrolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 213, introduced by Senators Stone, Krasner, Steinbeck, Buck, and Ellison, revises provisions relating to the crime of unlawful dissemination of an intimate image. The Assembly has amended this bill with Amendment number 651. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Amendment 651 to Senate Bill 213.
You've heard the motion to concur. Are there any further remarks? Senator Titus. Oh,
I have some more remarks.
yes, you do. You do have more remarks. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment removes public figures from the exclusions under the definition and clarifies that the prohibition against disseminating intimate images does not apply to a person who is less than 18 years of age.
Thank you. Senator Titus. Button's on. Okay. Okay, are there any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 213 is ordered and rolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 293, introduced by Senator Lang, revises provisions relating to intercollegiate athletics. The Assembly has amended this bill with Amendment number 613. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Amendment 613 to Senate Bill 293.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The amendment removes language from the bill specifying that money received by a university foundation must only be used for the purpose specified by the donor.
You've heard the motion. Are there any further remarks? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 293 is ordered and rolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 303, introduced by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to civil liability to persons using certain premises for recreational activity under certain circumstances. The Assembly has amended this bill with Amendment number 575. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to concur in Amendment 575 to Senate Bill 303.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment clarifies and expands liability protections, defines when immunity applies, limits protections for certain nonprofit and private owners, and allows certain appeals to the Supreme Court if a court grants or denies recreational immunity.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 303 is ordered and rolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 334, introduced by Senator Neal, revises provisions relating to the employment of offenders. The Assembly has amended this bill with Amendment number 656. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Amendment 565 to Senate Bill 334.
You've heard the motion. Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment adds educational attainment for offenders to the list of information that must be included in an annual report.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 334 is ordered and rolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
Senate Bill 346, introduced by Senators Scheibel, et cetera, and Assemblymember Hansen, makes various changes relating to guardianship. The Assembly has amended this bill with Amendment number 654. Does the Senate wish to concur or not concur in this matter?
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate concur in Amendment 654 to Senate Bill 346.
You've heard the motion to concur. Senator Scheibel.
This amendment adds a very important and illustrious co-sponsor named Assemblymember Hansen.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill number 346 is ordered and rolled, and the Assembly is to be notified of our action.
That concludes Order of Business 14 on the third agenda.
The fourth agenda for the day, Order of Business 4, Reports of Committees.
Mr. President, your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which was referred Assembly Bill number 551, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. Signed, Senator Fabian Dignante, Chair. End of reports.
Order of Business 10, Introduction, First Reading, and Reference. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move to take Assembly Bill number 551, just reported out of committee, and place it on second reading for this agenda.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am also giving notice that for the remainder of the legislative session, all assembly bills that are received in the Senate chamber for referral to committee under Order of Business 10 will be referred in one motion rather than individual motions to provide ease for staff and the chamber.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Assembly Bill 376 by Assembly Members O'Neill, et cetera, revises provisions relating to insurance, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 503 by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs, revises provisions relating to governmental administration, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 544 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions relating to certain licenses issued by the Division of Public and Behavioral Health of the Department of Health and Human Services, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 552 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions relating to the Trust Fund for Child Welfare, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 554 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions relating to the grant matching account, refer to Government Affairs. Assembly Bill 558 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to restore the balances in the stale claims account, the emergency account, and the contingency account, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 560 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes a supplemental appropriation to the Division of Child and Family Services of the Department of Health and Human Services for an unanticipated shortfall related to the Rural Child Welfare Budget Account, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 562 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Office of the Secretary of State for costs associated with the voter registration and elections management system and connectivity of automatic voter registration agencies, refer to Health and Human Services. Assembly Bill 563 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the Office of the State Controller for the cost of certain consulting services, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 564 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the Fleet Services Division of the Department of Administration for the replacement and purchase of vehicles, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 565 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the Supreme Court of Nevada for the cost of the implementation of a statewide trial court electronic filing system, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 566 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to and authorizes the expenditure of money by the Division of Museums and History of the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs for certain vehicles, tools, and repairs, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 567 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the Nevada System of Higher Education for safety and security equipment and enhancements, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 569 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Department of Veteran Services for certain vehicles and equipment, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 570 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Department of Corrections for various purposes relating to certain technology, training, and equipment, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 571 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Department of Education for certain surveys, offsets to decrease in federal grant funding, professional development costs, information technology projects, programs, grants, and studies, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 572 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Department of Corrections for the replacement and purchase of certain equipment and furniture, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 573 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the Department of Education to carry out the Incentivizing Pathways to Teaching Grant Program, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 574 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Department of Corrections for the purchase and replacement of equipment and furniture at High Desert State Prison, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 576 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the Nevada Highway Patrol Division of the Department of Public Safety for the purchase and replacement of motorcycles, vehicles, and equipment, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 577 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for a certain new website and database and for the replacement of vehicles and computer hardware and associated software, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 578 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the replacement of computer and information technology equipment, vehicles, and other equipment, and for certain projects, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 579 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the Department of Education for the replacement of the information technology system for educator licensure, refer to Finance. Assembly Bill 582 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions relating to the Governor Gwynn Millennium Scholarship Program, refer to Government Affairs. Assembly Bill 590 by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes appropriations to and authorizes the expenditure of money by the Office of the Military for certain projects, programs, equipment, and contractual costs, refer to Finance. End of Assembly Bills.
Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I refer the Assembly bills as listed on your agenda to the committees as listed, with the exception of Assembly Bill 552 and Assembly Bill 562.
You've heard the referrals. Are there any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer Assembly Bill 552 to the committee HHS.
You've heard the referral. Are there any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer Assembly Bill 562 to your Committee on Finance.
You heard the referral. Are there any objections? Seeing none, so ordered.
That concludes Order of Business 10.
Order of Business 12, second reading.
Senate Bill 133, introduced by Senator Don Darrell Loop, makes an appropriation to the Nevada Center for Civic Engagement to support civics education programs. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 844, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment number 844 in Senate Bill 133 makes an appropriation to the Nevada Center for Civic Engagement to support civics education programs.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill 133 is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and to the general file.
Senate Bill 280, introduced by Senators Wynn, et cetera, and Assembly Members Torres Fawcett, et cetera, makes an appropriation to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas School of Dental Medicine for cleft and craniofacial health care. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 846, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
There are no objections. So ordered. Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 846 to Senate Bill 280 revises the appropriations to the general fund of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas School of Dental Medicine from $2.9 million to $1.3 million for the creation of a cleft and craniofacial medical team.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senate Bill 280 as amended is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and to the general file.
Assembly Bill 92, introduced by Assembly Members Dickman, Gray, DeLong, and O'Neill, and Senator Titus, revises provisions relating to elections. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 92 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 415, introduced by Assembly Members Carter, Golding, and Dickman, and Senators Titus, Taylor, and Lang, revises provisions governing the towing of motor vehicles. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 415 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 551, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, requires a background investigation of employees, prospective employees, contractors, and prospective contractors of the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services of the Department of Health and Human Services. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 551 is ordered to the general file.
Assembly Bill 588, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises provisions relating to members of the Assembly of the Nevada Legislature. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none.
AB 588 is ordered to the general file.
That concludes Order of Business 12 on the fourth agenda.
Order of Business 13, general file.
Senate Bill 62, introduced by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to crimes. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 843, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrell Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 843 to Senate Bill 62 reduces the general fund appropriation for the account for victims of human trafficking from $1 million to $200,000.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 62 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 62, introduced by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to crimes. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are not. Section 6, end of Section 6, end of bill.
Senator Wynne.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 62, as amended, expands the definition of victim for the purposes of eligibility for compensation from the Fund for the Compensation of Victims of Crime.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close it. Happen. Okay, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 18, the noes are 2. SB 62 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 147, introduced by Senator Dondero Loop, creates the Southern Nevada Regional Planning for Economic Resiliency Pilot Program. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 845, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 845 to Senate Bill 147 revises the state general fund appropriation in Section 11, reducing the amount from $650,000 to $500,000.
Any further remarks on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 147 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 147, introduced by Senator Dondero Loop, creates the Southern Nevada Regional Planning for Economic Resiliency Pilot Program. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 12 into Section 12 into bill.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 147, as amended, establishes the Southern Nevada Regional Planning for Economic Resiliency Pilot Program, administered by the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, to evaluate regional planning needs and identify infrastructure, transit, and economic development priorities in Clark County.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 20, the noes are 0. SB 147 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 165, introduced by Senators Wynn, Buck, and Steinbeck, establishes provisions relating to behavioral health. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 823, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 823 to Senate Bill 165 adds Section 79.5 requiring the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy of the Department of Health and Human Services to transfer $68,705 from the account to improve healthcare quality and access in state general fund, and authorizes the expenditure of $115,171 in fiscal year 27 to the Nevada Medicaid budget account to carry out the provisions of the act.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 165 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 165, introduced by Senators Wynn, Buck, and Steinbeck, establishes provisions relating to behavioral health. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 83 into Section 83, end of bill. This bill requires a 2/3 majority vote.
Senator Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support of Senate Bill 165, not just because it has my name on it, but also it's something that I've become very passionate about. About 2 years ago, right at the end of the last legislative session, I got a call from my city council person and neighbor, Brian Knudsen, and he asked if I'd be willing to come to a conference space and meet with practitioners and doctors and professionals and our educators in the space to have a real conversation about what we could do in our state to have a real impact when it came to children's behavioral and mental health. I remember sitting in that conference room right across the street from where I actually live in Senate District 3 with a bunch of incredibly passionate people, including Dr. Tara Raines, Dr. Michelle Paul, and as well as there were probably about 40 of us in the room, just brainstorming ideas about what we could do to really have that change and see that impact in our community. And I remember at that time we were introduced to the Bomber Institute and the incredible work that they were doing in Oregon around this area. It actually led to a trip where several of us went down to Portland to check out what was happening at the University of Oregon in this new degree program. I'm grateful for Assembly Member from District 1 and our Senator here from District 7 who were able to accompany me on that trip, as well as officials from UNLV and UNR. And it was really exciting because we were able to see this program live and in action. They were having their first cohort of students go through their second and third year. And what they were doing is the second and third year of college, they were doing not only in-class training, but they were also doing in-field training. Think clinical residency programs for a bachelor's level degree. They were partnering with schools and nonprofits and medical providers for students to do their work and training in our communities. They were creating a brand new profession, and that's exactly what Senate Bill 165 does. It creates a brand new Nevada-grown new workforce to help tackle our mental and behavioral health crisis, especially when it comes to our young kids. It creates a bachelor's level degree program with appropriations that are not from general fund. They're from opioid funds as well as provider fee taxes as they qualify under the qualifications for those. To create this new license, to create this new opportunity, to create this new appropriation to not only UNLV, go Rebels, as well as UNR, as well as Great Basin. We do not have that program, and this will create just an incredible workforce to be able to tackle some of the challenges that we have in our state. What I'm also excited about in this bill is we hear a lot about how we're losing medical professionals. This bill also creates a psychology internship program. Think a psychology residency program for those of you that hear about GME all the time. But currently, all 7 of our graduates in the last 2 years have left Nevada. They've left Nevada because we do not have this opportunity. We do not have a program. So all of our Nevadans that are trained here in our schools have to leave our state to finish up their program, to do their internship. So much like the support for medical residencies, this creates an accredited program to have 3 internships in our state, allowing us to keep those Nevadans that we have trained here in our schools to stay here and work in Nevada. I could go on and on about this. I already obviously has taken up too much time of our evening this time, but that's why I stand in strong support of Senate Bill 165, and I'd urge your support as well.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 20, the noes are 0. SB 165 has received a 2/3 vote, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 300, introduced by Senators Dondero, Loop, etc., makes revisions relating to Medicaid. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate Assembly to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
Amendment number 760, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondero, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Dondero, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment 760 to Senate Bill 300 includes requirements that Medicaid provide coverage for medication administration to treat opioid use disorder, includes appropriations and authorizations to support the provisions of the bill, and provides for associated definitions and clarifications.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none of those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 300 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 300, introduced by Senators Don Darrow, Loop, etc., makes revisions relating to Medicaid. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 2 into Section 2. End of bill.
Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 300 is amended, requires the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy to cover the administration of certain medication to treat opioid use disorder. This bill also codifies into law existing requirements that Medicaid covers certain services and newly requires coverage of certain services provided by master's degree level interns. General fund appropriations and authorized federal as well as private hospital provider tax funding are included to support the provisions of this bill.
Are there further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Senator Daly. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 20, the noes are 0. SB 300 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 317, introduced by Senator Daly, revises provisions relating to industrial insurance. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 790, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 790 to Senate Bill 317 revises the time frame in which the administrator of the Division of Industrial Relations must notify an insurer or its third-party administrator of an inspection from 3 business days before the date of inspection to 1 business day before the date of inspection, adds back existing statutory language related to assessment rates and subsequent injury account for associations of self-injured public or private employers, removes the requirement for the administrator to select a closed formulary to be used by insurers in connection with claims and instead adopt the official disability guidelines drug formulary, removes language allowing the division to adopt regulations related to the issuance of notices of corrections for minor clerical or ministerial violations, and revises various timeframes related to updating information and submitting an insurer's list to the administrator of the Division of Industrial Relations. That is all one sentence. Thank you.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 317 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 317, introduced by Senator Daly, revises provisions relating to industrial insurance. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 35 into Section 35. End of bill.
Senator Daly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 317, as amended, revises various provisions relating to industrial insurance.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 20, the noes are 0. SB 317 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 378, introduced by Senators Danyate, etc., and Assemblymember Gray, makes revisions relating to health care. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 804, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
There are no objections. So ordered. Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrow, Loop.
Thank you much, Mr. President. Amendment number 804 to Senate Bill 378 requires the Director of Health and Human Services to include under Medicaid a system of value-based payments for care provided by independent centers for emergency medical care, exempts certain independent centers for emergency medical services from certain services, revises licensure provisions and adjusts deadlines relating to provisions of health records, and makes $291,296 general fund appropriation and authorizes $1.1 million to implement the bill.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none of those, Senator Titus. Okay, any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 378 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 378, introduced by Senators Danyate, et cetera, and Assemblymember Gray, makes revisions relating to health care to people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate Assembly to enact as follows, Section 1, end of Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 41, end of Section 41, end of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 378, as amended, revises provisions relating to the electronic maintenance, transmittal, and exchange of health records and the licensing and regulation of independent centers for emergency medical care. It also enables non-competition covenants for certain providers of health care, and the bill makes certain provisions relating to the structurally separate licensing of a hospital and being able to provide emergency services as licensed as an independent center for emergency medical care.
Are there further remarks? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in absolute strong opposition to Senate Bill 378, which jeopardizes access to critical health care services, particularly to undocumented immigrants and other vulnerable Nevadans. Freestanding emergency departments, or FSEDs, are a vital extension of hospital emergency rooms operating under a single hospital license to provide seamless, integrated care with the same highly trained physicians and diagnostic tools. SB 378's requirement for separate licensing, specifically in sections 14 through 16, fragments the system, risking patient confusion, higher costs from transfers, and worse, as 4% of FSED patients require hospital admissions. By restricting new FSEDs within 5 miles of other facilities, section 17, the bill absolutely ignores their role in relieving overcrowded hospital ERs and improving EMS efficiency by serving as an offload point, especially during high demand hours from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. when the urgent cares are not open. Mandating that FSEDs provide 24/7 urgent care at lower rates, section 18, totally disregards their higher occupational costs and EMTALA obligations, which ensure care for all, unlike urgent care centers that can deny service based on payment ability. When somebody presents to our ER, we cannot turn them away. We cannot ask if they have a way of payment. We cannot ask if they are legal or not. This bill could force hospitals to cut services or close FSEDs, disproportionately harming undocumented immigrants who rely on these centers as a lifeline. Last session, SB 348, 2023, addressed transparency through clearer signage, patient education, and national provider identification on bills, resolving payer concerns without disrupting care. SB 378 totally undoes this compromise, threatening access and quality. I absolutely urge you to not vote for this bill. I have lived this bill. I see these patients. Please do not support this bill. Thank you.
Are there further remarks? Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Bill 378 for several different reasons. The first being that this bill was drafted, of course, to understand the difficulties that consumers may have with our healthcare system. I believe that the provisions of this bill help restore trust into the healthcare system. First and foremost, I'm glad that there's comments being made about taking access to care for individuals seriously, especially for those who are undocumented, because I certainly have bills that have been presented not just in this legislative session, but also in the previous ones to help expand access to that. And so I would hope that my colleagues would help me in support of that. But in regards to the provisions of the bill, let's talk about a few things. Number one, there's this argument that folks may say that freestanding ERs improve access to healthcare. But here's the reality. If that was the case, then why are we standing them across from our competitors? Because we're seeing that in the Las Vegas Valley. Number two, the bill in Section 27 and Section 28 talks about Medicaid fraud. We've heard folks talk about the importance of stopping waste, fraud, and abuse in our healthcare system. This bill has sections that allow Medicaid the ability to stop providers that are upcoding and taking charge of our state. And so a vote of no is essentially a vote no to stop Medicaid fraud. And third, but not least, the issue of freestanding ERs. You know, I've heard countless stories about individuals that have gone to these healthcare centers. These facilities are marketed to look like urgent care centers. They're convenient, they look clean and professional, and they position themselves as helping the underserved or fast-growing neighborhoods. But the truth is that too many Nevadans walk into these facilities without knowing that they're about to be hit with hospital-sized bills for services that could have cost a fraction elsewhere. We've all heard the stories of patients rushing to get treatment for a minor injury, whether it's a dislocated elbow or mild fever, and they walk out thinking that their insurance will cover it. But what they receive is a healthcare bill that a hospital is upcoding and billing them excessively. This is not a hypothetical scenario. We saw it here in Las Vegas, in Nevada, of course. This issue was prompted because a hospital down the street from where I live, Desert Springs Hospital, was shut down and converted into a freestanding ER. Other states like Texas, Colorado have already grappled with this, and Texas, freestanding ERs, they flooded the market, and it took a series of lawsuits and legislative fixes to even begin to rein them in. And in Colorado, a major health system had to settle for over $23 million after it was found that upcoding, billing patients for a higher level of services that they never received, was an issue. Nevada should not wait until the damage is done. We have a responsibility to ensure that we're protecting our constituents, especially from the deceiving practices of our healthcare system, and I believe that this bill reins in our healthcare system to not just deliver for patients, but also to make sure that we are ensuring consumer needs are met with whatever we need whenever we need our help. And so for that reason, I urge my colleagues to vote yes in support of this bill.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 12, the noes are 8. SB 378 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 393, introduced by Senator Neal, revises the Windsor Park Environmental Justice Act. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 810, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Dondero-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
There are no objections. So ordered. Senator Dondero-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Dondero-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 810 to Senate Bill 393 expands the boundaries of Windsor Park neighborhood, provides a property tax exemption to the owners of the newly constructed residences such that the property taxes on the newly constructed residence are based on the property taxes on the Windsor Park residence, requires the developer of the single-family residences be constructed under the bill to perform additional work on the project and to be contracted without the need for additional bidding, and provides for $26 million appropriation from the State General Fund in the fiscal year 2026.
Any remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 393 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 393, introduced by Senator Neal, revises the Windsor Park Environmental Justice Act. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 5 into Section 5, end of bill.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of SB 393 for multiple reasons. Justice, and because I believe in the value of human life, and for the creation of generational wealth that was stolen from a community for over 30 years. I got into the fight in 2019 over a brick wall for Pastor Miller, and when my research uncovered that an ordinance from 1991 had been applied and that it kept families in a state of suspension. I want to thank the governor for signing SB 450 in 2023 and giving those families a fighting chance. I also want to thank the governor for his commitment in September of 2024, last year, to continue to assist these families while we engaged in a legislative fight over the swapping of $25 million from SB 450. He stated on Channel 13 that he is focused on guaranteeing the future of the Windsor Park families. When CNN and Associated Press picked up the Windsor Park story in 2023, It was because the plight for justice for these families rang through and Windsor Park was lifted up. It rang through because it was a complete failure of the city of North Las Vegas to save these families. It rang through because I had a painstakingly researched 50 years of history on how black military families moved into this neighborhood with hope in 1965. 11 years after the United States government passed the law that in 1954 to prevent substandard housing from being built in neighborhoods of color. It rang through and was lifted up nationally because when we told the history about how in November of 1991, Ordinance 1606 banned and suspended any issuance of permits for building, electrical, plumbing, and any addition or changes to their homes. That basically was reverse condemnation and left those families who didn't move in a state of suspension until I got involved in 2019. That is when my city told untruthful statements about even the existence of the ordinance. Even though we had found it, we cited to the language in that ordinance, and I started the mission to reveal the truth about these families who were defamed in 2023 by their own city in this building, that they had created their own condition by remaining in those homes. The truth rang through nationally because when the story was told how insurance companies arbitrarily canceled these families' home insurance, as noted in the Nevada State Assembly minutes, per the testimony of the City of North Las Vegas on April 5th, 1993, then in September 5th, 1993, per the minutes of City of North Las Vegas, that when they moved 45 residents whose homes had been sinking due to groundwater removal, but the actions of building the new homes for the 45 residents was woefully inadequate, leaving the 93 families that we are fighting for today. The minute stated that Hattie Canty complained that Mr. Hampton's house was built where the front door were facing the neighbor's side of the house, that the ceilings were messed up, and that the tub paint was peeling with less than 2 years of the new homes being built. That's why the 90 stayed. It rang out nationally as a human rights issue, not an issue of race, but a need to provide justice to families that had been mistreated. Not just the 90 families, but also the 45 who moved out on hope and who were still provided substandard housing that had been banned since 1954. These residents stood and tried to fight for themselves for 25 years. And I joined as a young leader in 2019 and brought in Boyd Law School to fight with me because hope floats and justice needs to be completed for these families. That is why SB 393 exists. It exists because the costs have gone up. It exists because the entire bill as written needs to be completed from 2023. The value of saving a human life, of allowing 93 families to continue to live in housing that is in shambles because we removed groundwater by thousands of gallons that caused these homes to sink. We're saving these lives so we can allow children and grandchildren of these residents to believe that this legislature can care about their value and that actually seeing the American dream of growing up in a stable house where the walls are intact, where the sewage line doesn't have tree roots growing through it for 20 years, where realtors can't steal their money by selling them a house that has health and safety risk, like what we did to Miss Sonier in 2021, when a Windsor Park home was sold to her for $200,000, and she received down payment assistance from her own city, and she was not able, and no one else stopped the sale, neither did City of North Las Vegas. The truth rang forward when the American Bar Association saw it worthy in their Civil Rights and Social Justice section to publish the plight of the Windsor Park families in October of 2024, because hope really does float. Thank you.
Senator Titus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 393. I appreciate my colleague's passion. I appreciate her love for her community and all she has done over these many years. However, since the 1990s, over $51 million in public funds, including $14 million from federal, state, and local sources, and $37 million approved in 2023, has been allocated to address the Windsor Park issue. Last session, significant ARPA funds were allocated, some of which still remain unused. Now this body is being asked for an additional $26 million despite no new federal funding. Why I truly sympathize with the issue: this represents a fiscal boondoggle, especially given the current federal constraints that never failed to be pointed out. All over the state, I want to remind my colleagues, people have their insurance on their homes being canceled. These funds are being spent on 93 households out of the $1.2 million Nevada households, or 0.0073% of Nevadan households. For these reasons, I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me for another time. I respect my colleague from Smith Valley, and what I find interesting about the comments about money being allocated from 1990, the $14 million that was allocated in 1990 that was associated with the city of North Las Vegas has nothing to do with this bill. What it has to do with is the $14 million that was mismanaged by the city of North Las Vegas while I was in high school. What I know to be true, because I researched the money and their efforts, that these families for 20 years fought to try to figure out what happened to the $14 million that should have took care of the problem, but it did not. What we found out and what was placed in the record in 2023 in SB 450 were 7 years of budget where we found out the city of North Las Vegas not only had been accruing that money, but that they did not spend it on those families. And what I placed in SB 450 was to make sure that any remaining money that was left over from the 1999 Fannie Mae bond and any money that was given from the federal government under the CBDG dollars was going to be turned over to the state. And what they turned over was $2.4 million, which we placed in the Treasury in order to use for the relocation of those families. What I find amazing in this conversation is that you can say that you have an interest in what is going on with those families. You cannot compare what is happening to the Windsor Park families with any other condition that has happened in this state. They are not a normal condition. It was an anomaly that happened because of subsidence and groundwater being removed from those families. It also matters whether or not you come and say that you care when you didn't even vote for the first $37 million in 2023. So we want to, when we talk about extending care and concern, that should have also come with the vote on the first run. What we're doing is not misusing or mishandling money. What we are trying to do is finish the bill as written, which takes care of not only the movement of these families, because code has changed. The code is no longer the 1965 code. It is a new code in 2025, which requires a different standard for home building. When you see the bill, and it was as written, we always said we were going to take care of the 45 homes who we knew the paint was peeling, where they were left in a state of suspension and moved out on hope that the city of North Las Vegas would extend the home warranty that only lasted 1 year. The bill is trying to focus on providing justice to families who were left by their own city, and they waited for them to die, and all they did was fight those families tooth and nail and fought me consistently while we waged the battle in the media, while we waged the battle in the street, just to get them acknowledged. Most of these families and the women and the elders that live there cannot go back to work. They are in their 80s. And I promised them that there would not be another person who died. Because when I started the fight for Pastor Miller over a brick wall, because they had an ordinance that suspended any changes to their house, he died in COVID. And I said, there will not be another soul that I see die in this neighborhood until we get complete justice and you are moved into a new home. This is not a handout. This is not welfare. This is justice for these families because their own city left them to die. And there is no connection to what happened in the 1990s, except for the city of North Las Vegas did a deep and great injustice to those families. And it wasn't until I got light and wind of it that I got the energy and the courage not to be a coward and fight as a lone person against an entire city for families who deserve the right to be seen. And I refuse to let anybody stand in this body and talk about how asking for additional money to finish the project, when the only thing we've been able to do is buy the land, because when I left this building, the city did everything they can to block every piece of land that was adjacent to that project. And but the will of God, did we find a way to get other land that was offered to us that we could purchase. But we were on the mission to get 90 lots in Cibola Park, and I did not give up, and I believed that we were going to change the game. Yes, is there money still sitting there? But that is money just to build the home. It is not enough to complete the project. It is not enough to do the park. It is not enough to make sure that we memorialize these families and we make sure that they can move forward and we can relocate these families. It's not enough. I have never been a person in this building to come in and mishandle money, but I sure will find out if somebody else did. And I know for a fact, and I'm asking my colleagues in this chamber to not only vote for justice, vote for Ms. Walker. Vote for Ms. Wilson. Vote for Ms. Carter. Vote for her children that have only seen walls that crack and separate. And they've never seen a home that didn't tilt, where the door didn't close. But yet they had to figure it out. That's who we're voting for. The faces of the Latino families who were sold homes in 2017, and I don't even know how they got a mortgage. And they failed to inspect those homes, and they ripped those families off. They ripped them off, and there are 23 of them who are sitting with a mortgage on a house that should have cost them $10,000, but they stole their money. And we have to right the wrong.
Any further remarks? Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support for the people of Windsor Park. I know we've been here late tonight, but I have to rise and say some things are more important than money. Some things are just more important. Since we've been here in this session, we have spent money on unexpected overtime costs to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. We have spent money on budgets that have been overspent. We have spent millions of dollars of unending upgrades that have gone on for session after session after session. But we pay the bills because it's the right thing to do. Earlier today, in this very chamber, we spent a lot of time talking about how home ownership represents the American dream, where people in our state are counting on us to make sure this dream does not turn and continue to be a nightmare. So my question today to my colleagues is, what is the price of justice? What is the price of people? What is the price of hope? Some things, I submit tonight, are more important than money.
Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 15, the noes are 5. SB 393 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 400, introduced by Senator Don Darrell-Loop, etc., revises provisions relating to education. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 731, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment number 731 to Senate Bill 400 eliminates the requirement for a collective bargaining agreement entered into a large school district to contain certain provisions concerning compensation, and removes the requirement for a teacher to obtain an endorsement from the Department of Education to teach certain subjects located in a school district in which fewer than 200,000 pupils are enrolled.
Any further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 400 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 400, introduced by Senators Don Darrell-Loop, etc., revises provisions relating to education. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there further amendments?
There are none. Section 3 into Section 3, end of bill.
Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senate Bill 400, as amended, requires a child with an individualized education program who transfers from a school inside or outside the state be initially provided services comparable to the services the child received at their previous school until the current or new individualized education program is adopted and implemented. This bill, as amended, also requires the Commission on Professional Standards in Education to adopt regulations establishing the requirements for a teacher, administrator, or other educational personnel to obtain an endorsement to teach music or art, and regulations that require a teacher to obtain an endorsement from the Department of Education to teach music or art to be eligible to teach music or art at certain schools, except for school districts in which fewer than 200,000 pupils are enrolled.
Are there further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Senator Orenshaw. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 20, the noes are 0. SB 400 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 407, introduced by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to legal representation for indigent persons. People of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 802, proposed by the Senate Committee on Finance.
Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
There are no objections, so ordered. Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Don Darrell-Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Amendment 802 to Senate Bill 407 establishes that the Executive Director of the Department of Indigent Defense Services serves at the pleasure of the Board on Indigent Defense Services and may only be removed for the board good cause with limited exceptions. The Executive Director could also be removed by the Governor in extraordinary conditions. In addition, the amendment establishes that the State Public Defender would be appointed by the Executive Director as opposed to by the Governor. Both positions would serve terms of 4 years and may be reappointed.
Are there further remarks on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. SB 407 is now ready for final consideration.
Senate Bill 407, introduced by the Senate Committee on Judiciary, revises provisions relating to the Department of Indigent Defense Services. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 407, as amended, does exactly what my colleague from Senate District 8 just described.
Any further remarks? Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Secretary will close the roll. Yeses are 12, the noes are 8. SB 407 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
That concludes Order of Business 13 and the business of the desk for this legislative day.
Order of Business 16, remarks on the floor, introduction of guests. Senator Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, thank you all for all of your hard work. I would note that the members of Finance, we will be having a meeting following floor session to do a bit more work on our hardworking money committees. And otherwise, Mr. President, I would move that the Senate stand in adjournment until the hour of 11 a.m. on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.